So the water I am buying is already distilled, meaning it's pretty clean. It's already a 0 TDS. And then I go ahead and put this water in the filter. And this removes the plastic, because clearly I don't want to consume plastic. So the filter, the zero water filter, for me reduces the plastic. So even if the water is already 0 TDS, I filter it again. I still do all the other things I mentioned to create even a better water without the plastic.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today, I am very grateful that my good friend Yuli is back on the podcast. Yuli has been a guest before. He always shares amazing wisdom. He is someone that I look up to tremendously, and there's not a whole lot of people that I look up to when it comes to health and biohacking. I would consider Yuli a true, real deal biohacker, someone who's really very, very knowledgeable about health, has studied a lot, and he's living it. He's doing it. He's actually practicing what he preaches. So I wanted to get Yuli back on because I want to know what he's up to. I want to know what new health things he's been doing and how he's been progressing, because I've seen in my journey that every year I seem to progress a little bit more and more and more, and seem to have new things to share and new realizations that I've come to. So Yuli, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
Yeah, Talor, great to be here. Looking forward to chatting here.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's just give people, well, first of all, in case people don't know your background, let's give a quick background of how did you go on this health journey? Where did it all start?
Yeah, from my background of the health journey, it started very early for me. I started having health problems at age 17. And for me, it was in the form of back pain. I had very debilitating back pain, which made my health on some level worse than people who were 70-year-olds around me. It was hard for me to walk around. I was struggling. I couldn't sit many hours on the computer. I was, in my head at least, pretty disabled. I didn't feel I could do many things in the world. So it set me on a journey to really improve my health. And at the time, my diet was very average, nothing special. I was not doing anything special. And I started going to many doctors. Nothing really helped. And I started trying many things. It started by me improving my diet, and then didn't really help my back, but I started trying for that. Started trying a lot of things, which probably I would not try if I didn't have this initial seed of pain. So now I'm very grateful I had to have this experience. And it led me learning in the end, after a few years, really learning how to manage my body well, which technically I was not really managing well, which is what was causing my initial pain. Through that, I reached out to many people. I was learning about many aspects of health, trying many things. And this really gave me the hunger, the desire, not to be average, not to be good, but to be amazing, to be great. And I'm not accepting, even right now, in terms of my levels of performance or levels of health, just great health. I want incredible, amazing health. I expect my brain, as an example, to perform amazingly all the time. And right now, as an example, if something is off, I feel it right away. And maybe someone would accept it, but I don't. It's just, for me, it's an indicator, a KPI, so to speak, which allows me to say, hey, I need to change or adjust something, which causes it, because I know where I should be and where I can. So that's a quick background of kind of what led me in general, the world of biohacking and health in general.
Nice, nice. And I love that, because I feel the same way, that if I didn't experience the pain that I experienced, I'm grateful for it now. Like you said, I always say that in the moment, it felt like this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. And so for many of you listening right now, if you're in pain or you're struggling or you have bad health, whatever the case may be, you may be thinking, this is horrible, I'm in pain, all this kind of thing. But a great little reframe for you that both Yuli and I experienced was that what we thought was the worst thing that could ever happen to us ended up becoming the best thing that could ever happen to us. So I really love that.
Yeah, it's challenging always at the moment to love the, so to speak, something you don't really like. But retrospectively in my life, it's always been the greatest gift. And one question I really regularly ask myself right now to get quicker out of the state is, what is the gift in what is happening? And for me, this back pain was literally one huge gift in my life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I also love how you said now, like, and you and I have spoken about this, I think last time we talked about how the healthier you get and the cleaner you eat, the more sort of intuitive you become with your health and with your eating, and you can feel when something's off, right? And now I have not drank alcohol in several months, and you know, when I go out with friends and they're all drinking and they're like, "Oh man, you're not drinking," and I say to them, "Listen, I wish I could drink. I wish I could have a couple of drinks with you now and have a good time, but I have just experienced how bad I feel for sometimes 1, 2, 3 days after drinking, that my body just tells me, no, I can't do it anymore." And so I just stopped. And of course I feel better. But if I drink, I feel so off, right? There's other things, right? Like if I eat, I don't eat any really sugar processed things, because when I do, I feel off. So yeah, maybe actually expand on that a little bit and talk, how are you kind of living this more intuitive now? Like you and I spoke about like being more intuitive around health now. That's a really interesting concept. And I think first for people, they need to get past the first step of like, if you're just eating junk food and, you know, you don't even know how bad you're feeling because you forgot how it feels to feel good. So the first step is to do the basic things that everybody says all the time: get good sleep, you know, cut out the sugars and alcohol and, you know, processed refined carbohydrates, things of that nature. And then you put yourself in a position where you can start this intuitive health journey, right?
Yeah, there are a few layers to it. Let me, I guess, uncover it for you. So the first metaphor for what you said, which I think connects here, let's say you have two buckets. One bucket is very dirty. If you add a drop of dirt to the bucket, you're not going to feel or see any difference. The bucket will remain the same. If you have another bucket and the bucket is pristine, it's clean, it's stunning, and you add a drop of dirt to that clean bucket, what will happen to the bucket?
Yeah, you'll notice the dirt.
You will notice the dirt. And that's what's happening with what you said, supposedly junk food, because your bucket is cleaner and you notice it. But someone who doesn't really care or notice it, just in this metaphor, may have a dirtier bucket, and then they may not notice the alcohol or the junk food or something else. So for me, I guess, building up on that, I have done, and I still do, a lot of cleansing for my body. For me, it's an essential thing to clean the buckets. My body is my house, and I just regularly clean the house. What happens when you don't have a house and you don't clean it? Dirt starts coming up. I want to make sure my house where I'm living right now is clean. Same way, my body is my house. It's where I live. It's where we all live. It's where you live. So in order for me to even arrive to a place where I can consider being intuitive, and that's the direction I took the last few more years, I've done lots of cleansing. So I really removed dirt, so to speak. I removed toxins, I removed cleanse, because many of my compulsions or things I wanted to eat were not really you. It wasn't me. Those were creatures inside of me. And until you don't really remove all those supposed creatures and doing general cleansing, making sure your body is just clean your diet, sleep, there are many things, of course, you can do. I don't see how you can be intuitive, because you're not going to be intuitive. If you think you want this specific drink or food, it could be that someone inside of you may want to eat it on that level. So in order to get to a place where you can even be intuitive, and that's a whole area of itself, how to cleanse the body, I just did lots of cleansing in general. There's just different types. Some are good, some are better, some are more fun, some are less fun, but that's the concept. I clean my bucket, so to speak. So yes, right now I can drink alcohol. I will feel it immediately. I can eat junk food. I will feel it immediately. But the other stick is I feel amazing all the time, basically, unless I don't do the wrong things. I make sure I do the right things and I feel great. So after I clean my bucket, building up on that, I think one big issue which is happening right now, I guess, in the biohacking world, many people are going a lot from the intellectual. And that's important. I love science, I love intellectual. I had years when I could read 50, 60 books just on health, how to cleanse as a scientific process, or how to do this, how to feel better. There are many things from a science perspective. However, going back to the intuition part, which you asked me, I also started developing a lot of intuition internal. So yes, use your intellectual, use your science, but in the same time, I'm combining it with what does my body want? Or how do I feel about it? Maybe the science says this is amazing, that's the best, but I just feel and know internally this supplement, this drink, whatever I'm doing is wrong. And I just feel it has to be done another way. Or I feel I need to take less quantity, even though some recommend I take a higher quantity of a certain supplement. So by tapping into my intuition, I can adjust more, and I'm combining it with science. I'm not doing only intuition. I do see and know some people that maybe go too much into intuition and forget about science altogether. Or some people going too much into science. Science says, that's what the person I'm following says. What I'm doing is combining both. That's my aim, to be in the middle. I'm using both science and both intuition. And I'm coming from a very scientific background, so the place I'm working more to bring myself to the center. As an A-type person, entrepreneur, I'm working a lot on my intuition the last 3 years, and I'm getting regularly better. I noticed which quantities of supplement to take. I don't rely on any kind of doctor to tell me take 9 capsules or 6 capsules. I just know how many capsules I need to take for a certain supplement. I develop relationship with supplements. I know when I need to cleanse. When you get to this level, like on some level, you become your own doctor. Like you want to use other advisors, but in the end of the day, you're responsible for your health. Nobody else is responsible for my health. I can listen to someone else, and if I do a mistake, it's my responsibility. Same thing, I mean, in finances, you can listen to a financial advisor. You are responsible in the end with your investments. So let's say my body is my biggest investment on some level. I am taking responsibility, and I know I need to cleanse when I do that. And I still do mistakes. I just autocorrect it, getting better. So that's the general concept of how I guess I got into like the intuitive part, and I'm doing a variety of things on that aspect. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I really, really love that. I haven't heard you say some of the things that you said, and the metaphors were really great as well. I really love that. I'm sure some people are thinking now, like, oh, I need to, so I want to do a cleanse. I want to get clean. So I know you've done maybe a lot of research, and I know we're going back to the head here, but a lot of this stuff is going to probably be in the head. Otherwise, it would probably be a very woo-woo podcast if it was all out of the head. But what are maybe for me, right? So again, obviously, first step, clean up your diet, get good sleep, this kind of thing. But further than that, what kind of cleanses, maybe what are the top 1 or 2 cleanses that you would maybe recommend for general people out there, or someone like myself even? Because I don't think I've done really many real cleanses that I've done, like specifically I'm going to do this specific cleanse. So maybe me, what cleanse would you recommend I do?
It's pretty hard to answer because I think it can be different for many people. I would not recommend, for example, for someone to do what I'm doing right now, because I build up. Like if you're level 1, do level 1. Let's say if you're not eating good food, start by cleaning up your diet. Start by making sure you avoid the sugars. Start by making sure you avoid the wrong things. That's like 1 step towards the right direction. Maybe you don't need to cleanse. Maybe you need to do intermittent fasting. Your body gets into a stage of autophagy after 16 hours. And that can be a mini cleansing versus continue consuming and consuming and consuming. Maybe after you cleaned your diet and doing intermittent fasting easily, maybe include a 24-hour fast once in a while. Maybe if you've done that, go to 48-hour water fast. And then you add the good things at the same time while you build up. This makes sure you'll do it longer term as well. So it's kind of hard for me to recommend 1 or 2 things. There are many things you can do, and I do think it's very individual. It depends on where you are. I mean, if you're eating junk food, stop eating junk food. If you're not sleeping well, start by optimizing the simple things. Make sure you're drinking clean water. Water is such a big thing, for example. Before you go into any cleanse, work on your water. Do something to make sure you drink the absolutely cleanest water. Our bodies are 72% water. Just
Yeah.
doing that by itself will start regulating auto-cleansing things because you're drinking clean water inside. Making sure your colon is going very well. That's your cleansing system. Include some saunas. So that's also cleansing. You start sweating things. It's another mechanism of the body to sweat. So start doing many things to start cleansing. Sauna, make sure your colon is working well. I'm regularly optimizing and making sure I go every day to the toilet for my colon. Because if I don't, coming back to what we discussed, it's like I'm not cleaning my house.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do any special cleanse. Just make sure you eat the right food, not to clog your colon, make sure it goes. Sweating. Those are a few things which I think anyone can do, which will be easy, and start building up towards where we need to be. From there, it's not really a recommendation, but I've done many different types of cleanses. I mean, you can do fasting. That's another type of cleanse. I've done heavy metal cleanse to remove any load of heavy metals from the body. Parasite cleanse, making sure I don't have any parasite load as well. Different teas, antiviral as well, and we're making sure I remove any potential viruses from the body. So you can tackle different things, but I'm not necessarily recommending that. I think start from the basics.
Yeah.
And even what I'm saying right now, the basics are the most important. Sleep well. When you sleep well, your brain will cleanse more. Go to sauna regularly. Start sweating. Make sure your colon is working well. Maybe do some cleanses of the colon, for example. I think anyone can do it. Doesn't matter wherever we are, whether it's an enema in the house. I know coffee enemas are popular in the biohacking world, or colon hydrotherapy. I'm a big believer in those as well. So those are a few examples of how you can start cleansing, but I don't think there's like one answer or one way which will automatically apply to you or anyone else. It's just more individual, I guess.
Yeah. Water is a good one because you actually inspired me. And I don't think I've spoken about this much on the podcast. Obviously sauna is great. I love my infrared sauna. I try to go in it at least twice a week, if not more. And just getting that sweat out is great. Like you said, that's one great way to cleanse. But water is something you actually, you inspired me. And so I have a reverse osmosis system in my house. So first you told me about testing that, right? With is it TDS? Is the test that, what's the thing?
You can test the water with a very simple and cheap TDS meter.
Yeah.
It usually comes with some fillers, or you can buy it for $10.
Right.
On Amazon, it's total dissolved solids. That's the term. You can measure what's the TDS of each water you're drinking. Yeah.
Right. TDS. And then there was a water filter, right? It's kind of like a Brita, but it's called, is it zero TDS or zero water, is it called?
I love the company Zero Water.
Zero Water. Yeah. So I bought their filter, just like a regular Brita filter, type product. And it was very cheap actually on Amazon. I think it was only like $20-$30 or something.
Yeah, it's very economical. Anyone can do it. Yeah.
And it came with a tester. I was like, man, how do they even make money? I'm sure they make money on the filters, on the refills that you have to buy a new filter. But
from a business
perspective, $20 for this great thing. And they give me a tester so that I could actually test what my TDS is. And so it was interesting because I tested my tap water and the TDS was like over 400 or something. Then I tested my reverse osmosis system and it was like 12, which is that's a great jump from the 400, obviously. But then running that through the zero TDS filter and then testing it obviously got me to zero TDS, which is the whole point of the zero TDS filter, to get it to zero. But then when we had this conversation a while back, you had mentioned about reverse osmosis. And I've heard this also from other places that it kind of strips all the minerals and it's kind of dead water. It's clean. You don't have the TDS as much, right? You don't have a lot of the stuff, but it also strips out a lot of the minerals. And the way I think you described it to me was that it's like dead water. And so you told me about the Vitalizer Plus, which I bought and I've been using. And that one's a little more expensive. I think it was $400 or $500. And it's literally, it just looks like a blender. Essentially, it's not really a blender, but it looks exactly like a blender, and it has a mineral cube in it. And so now I take my reverse osmosis water, and I put it. If I want to really go all the way out, I'll put that through the zero TDS, get zero TDS water, but now it's dead. Now I put it in the Vitalizer Plus, and that sort of oxygenates and remineralizes the water. So it literally like spins the water in a circle, like a blender, spinning it around for like 9 minutes. And then it gives me this water that you said, it kind of brings it back to life, the water, right? Maybe talk a little, because you're more knowledgeable about that than I am.
Yeah, what the device you said, the revitalizer, it structures the water. If someone wants to go deeper, there are many books about the structure of water, and that's one of the most important things with the water. And it is more expensive. I think it costs around $500. I'm currently not using it because it's very bulky and I don't have my own house. The moment I will definitely have it. So if anyone listening in, I don't think you have to have it, but you definitely want to do some work to bring more minerals and energy to this water. After it is coming to 0 TDS, I think that's the first step, removing the impurities, so to speak, from the tap water if you're using tap water. And I'm personally also blessing my water as well, which I'm drinking. Going back to the intuitive part, and I'm also using a testa plate, a purple testa plate, and there's lots of science around how it recharges and brings some of the structure to the water. And this one is much more economical. I think it costs around $40-50, and you just put it on the water and you do nothing else.
What is that? Testa plate? What is it?
A purple Tesla plate. If you go to eBay,
wow. Purple Tesla plate. And so what, you just put your water on top of it?
I just pour water on top of it, and there's lots of science around it, how it just restructures the water. And there's lots of science how even sending love to the water, how like making sure the words you speak to the water changes. And it's very scientific. It's not woo. There are many documentaries around it. So for me, blessing and sending love to the water is science and intuition blended together. It's one more thing which everyone can do. It's cheap and you can do it for any kind of water, anywhere you go. Even let's say the water I have right now, just like send love to it. It will change the structure of the water, and this water builds up our body. Again, 72% water. But the first step, I think, is just making sure for me, and probably what is for most people, is lower the TDS. So if right now the tap water for you where you live is 400, the goal is to lower it to 0. That's step one. I mean, you don't want to start working from the actual tap water. And there are many filters, whatever you want to work around, whether it's zero water, reverse osmosis. Let's start removing the impurities. I think that's one of the most important steps. And I think one of the things which for me made a big impact, it's very hard for me right now to drink water with higher TDS. I just feel it. I mean, I will do it, but if I'll do it for a few days, I will feel it immediately. I don't feel as fresh, as clean. So I definitely personally feel it. And I have to travel anywhere right now with a filter, and I do. That's the number one thing for me before supplements, before food. I want to get to the lowest TDS possible, to the cleanest water. So if I'll go for a trip, even for a few days, I'll make sure I have my filter with me. I may buy some bottles of water and I'll filter them and I'll drink that water. Even if it'll take an extra 10 minutes in the water to do it, 10 minutes in the evening. I think it's one of the most important things, one of the most economical things. This is before food, before the air you breathe, before anything. Because again, the body is 72% water. Wow. And now in terms of adding more minerals, I also love quintum minerals. So you can add it to the water to remineralize as well as one option, or I do it just directly under the tongue, drinking in the mouth, and it fills you up with minerals. And there are many other things you can do to get the minerals for the body. But I would say the most important, clean up your water. So I hope it
nice. Yeah. I also use the Quinton. I think it's on Amazon. If you search Quinton, which is Quinton, I think the product may be called Quintessential, Quint Essential, something like that. And it's basically just it tastes kind of just like salt water, like almost kind of like seawater full of electrolytes. And so yes, I take that as well, for sure. And then in terms of, so I know you're like a digital nomad, so you're kind of traveling around, staying in different places. I think every time I talk to you, you're in a different country. And so for you, so are you, when you're buying water, you're trying to buy it in glass, I assume, first, but sometimes you may not have the option. So you just buy big plastic and you just filter it through the filter.
My situation is specific because I'm still currently a nomad, and I have been for the last 8 years. So there are specific tools which I may not have access to because there's so much you can take with you. I don't buy glass right now. What I do in my case, where I travel and go different places, I make sure I buy the lowest TDS water possible, first of all. And I buy it usually from plastic because we're not going to sell it in glass.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, if it's in the US, you can buy distilled water. Distilled water will already be 0 TDS. And I'm here right now in Panama. I also have access to distilled water. So the water I am buying is already distilled, meaning it's pretty clean. It's already a 0 TDS. And then I go ahead and put this water in the filter. And this removes the plastic because clearly I don't want to consume plastic. So the filter, the zero water filter, for me reduces the plastic. So even if the water is already 0 TDS, I filter it again. I still do all the other things I mentioned to create even a better water without the plastic. So that's what I do when I travel. I make sure I buy the lowest TDS, filter it again to bring it down to 0, and then consume it. But again, if I would not be traveling, I would have my more expensive and bigger filters in the house and kind of work from there.
Nice, great. Yeah, I'll have to buy a purple Tesla. What was it called again? I'll have to buy one of those purple Tesla.
It's a purple Tesla plate.
Purple Tesla plate. I can buy from Amazon.
I haven't found them on Amazon recently. I think I looked, but you do find them certainly on eBay, not on Amazon.
Nice, very cool. Well, I want to kind of transition a little bit, because one thing recently, like in the beginning when we spoke, it was a lot, in the head, and it was a lot about what I'm eating, what you're eating, what we don't eat, supplements that we take, and we kind of geeked out on that for a while. But the last couple of times I spoke to you, I can really kind of tell. I don't know if it's an evolution, because I think you were always kind of, spiritual, I guess spiritual or whatever word you want to use. But, and I think this is a piece that I think a lot of people really miss. And that a lot of, obviously, diet is a big part that you need to fix if you're eating horribly, but a lot of pain in the body, right? A lot of, whether it be physical dis-ease or mental dis-ease, right? It's a different kind of work, right? So I think there's a physical aspect of health and what you put in your body. And then there's also, I guess it's mental or spiritual, whatever you would want to say, however you would want to categorize it. But I know you've been doing a lot more about this. You've been studying a lot more about this. You even mentioned to me at one point in the past about Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal, I think it's You Can Heal Your Life or something like that, where she talks a lot about how different emotions cause different pain in the body. Can you talk a little bit about what is some of the internal work that you've been doing and that you've kind of seen be very helpful for you? Obviously, blessing the water is a great one that I think a lot of people don't even think about or do. I think even when we ate one time together, I think you blessed the food, right? Before you ate it. I
blessed the food as well.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about things like that you're doing that have really worked for you.
I am doing a lot, but I think one very major thing, which probably is not being addressed, I don't know, biohacking world, whatever you want to call it, is the emotion specifically. So we have the physical body. You want to have the best diet possible, you want whatever we talked about, but then you have the emotional body as well. You also have an energetical body, and they're all impacting each other. I see it kind of as an interconnection. So if you're doing something right physically, it will help your emotions. So if you're doing everything right physically, you may be calmer, you may be better. But don't you know or heard about some people who have the best diet, they sleep the best, they do everything, and oops, they get cancer. I'm sure you've heard about those kind of people who have the absolute doing supposedly everything right, but they end up having diseases and leaving much earlier than they should be. So for me, a big work which I've been doing is the emotional part. And I think the emotions are impacting the physical body so much. Emotions can create disease. And so for me, the work I've been doing is like cleaning up my emotions, focusing on love, removing any judgment, removing any fear, removing any anger, because anger is an example, something I'm still working, but I have much less than I had before, is like literally a two-stick. Yeah, like once you use anger, it will just burn you inside. So it's like a sword, you go on someone else, but what you're doing, you're hurting yourself in the end. And lots of people today are not the most stable emotion. So for me, it has been a big work. And the book you mentioned, Louis Hay, is a fantastic book because it's just a booklet which shows you what are your symptoms you're having, what is bothering you in the body, and then what is the emotion around it, what may have caused it. Make sure, and it's like deep work. Sometimes the first reaction is, no way I'm having it. But when you sit down and analyze, you see, oh, wait, I have it there. Start finding it. So, and I love this book because it gives you, on top of the emotional issue, the actual mantra of things you may want to work on to remove it. So this is, and her work in general, Louise Hay, is on this side, emotions. So for me, it's just a big focus on being peaceful, being relaxed, being loving, removing all the so-called negative emotions. So not really negative, they serve me as well, but anger, frustration, we just talked about in the beginning of the call. Lots of people experience frustration because, hey, they don't get what they want, as an example.
Yeah,
and
in
I
fact,
think,
sorry to jump in real quick, but there's two examples that I just thought, that I just remembered that are perfect examples of this. And one is the work of Dr. John Sarno, who wrote the book Healing Back Pain. He also wrote the book The Divided Mind. And then there's one other one, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I remember last time I got back pain, I just binge listened to those 3 audiobooks, over 3 days, and all of a sudden my back pain was gone. And I won't do it justice by trying to explain it in detail right now, but it actually works for almost any kind of pain, not just back pain, wrist pain, elbow pain, knee pain, shoulder pain. Obviously, there's the physical aspect of reducing inflammation of what you put in your body, but he talks about that a lot of this is caused by inner tension, right? And
stress.
people, anger, and just like, why? And it's actually very common in very driven people, right? They want to, I need to get this success. It's almost like you can picture someone clenching their teeth and so driven to succeed that there's this inner tension. And anyway, his book goes through it in detail and talks about just, once you're just aware of it and just make the decision to release that and calm yourself, and just, it works wonders. Another great example, I recently watched again, I watch it about once a year, the Tony Robbins, I Am Not Your Guru documentary on Netflix. And there's one part of it where there's a mother and her daughter, and they basically go through, Tony does an intervention with them on stage. And long story short, there's a moment where you can just see the daughter had so much tension and frustration towards her mother. And Tony, did an intervention, and you could see that she just released. And there was one moment where she literally like, and like, you can see the tension be released. And Tony goes, there you go. What was that? Tony, he could, he's a master of catching this stuff. And he just caught it and said, what was that? That did you see that? Let that go. Yeah. And then they interviewed her the next morning, and she said, for the last, 5 years or whatever it was, I've had back pain every day. Haven't been able to sleep. And I woke up, I had the best sleep of my life. And for the first time in years, I have no back pain. And it was so clear that she released this inner tension, So those are 2 examples of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like cleansing your emotions. The same thing we talked about, cleansing the body, cleansing your emotions. And when it goes off, it's like, it's such a release on a physical level. But I want to add an important distinction. For me, the way I see it, it's both. It's not that you don't do anything physical and right now you eat junk food and you start being blissful and relaxed. It's both. It's equally important to keep the best physical things, but work on your emotions, cleanse your emotions. It will be a massive thing. And again, this is usually free or cheap. You can really work it yourself where you are and can make a big difference.
Are there any, I know people are thinking, okay, great, sounds great, but I know there's no easy answer. Just read this book and you'll cleanse your emotions or whatever. This is, you and I know that this is years and years of work and personal development and growth that goes into it. But maybe what do you think would be a starting point for the average person who maybe has never done much personal development or spirituality, or what do you think could be some good first steps for those people?
It's a good question. Letting go, in terms of books which come to mind, I'm thinking about David Hawkins' Letting Go. Just let go of your emotions. I think the work of Louis Hay in this category, which you mentioned, those are a few examples of great books. Tapping is another tool which I've used throughout the years. There is a book around that as well. It's like tapping in different areas of the body, which can help release a few of the things. This is in terms of books. I think it's a great starting point. There's so much work and different tools around it, which is hard for me to pinpoint. One thing which I've shown you as well when we hang out together, I have a note in front of me here. Instead of focusing on what you don't want, which you augment anything which you don't want. Let's say you want to work on anger, you can focus on anger and anger and anger. You can go to anger, you will be angry from focusing on anger. So what I do is I focus on what I do want. So for me, it's all the beautiful emotions, joy, peace, abundance, harmony, creation, power, knowingness, energy, expansion, trust, innovation, creativity, feeling enough, courage, clarity, feeling grateful, truth, youth, passion, excitement. So I literally have all of those on the wall. So something someone can do is just print it out and look at it all the time. That's another easy tool, and all of a sudden you'll start focusing on it. It's not the only thing, but I still use it right now. I have it actually all around my house, and for me, it reminds me what I do want to feel. Anytime I go to a place I don't want, I see it with my eyes, like, yes, I need to go there, and it knocks me off any negative emotion quicker. So it's another tool I think anyone can use, which is very cheap and easy, I think, on top of the other books I mentioned.
Yeah. And another thing, I know you and I are both like this very much. You probably even more so than I, because I know that even before the call, when we were just catching up a little bit, I'm very careful because I know how protective you are of what you allow into your mind, right? So I'm pretty sure that you are not watching any news, negative news on TV or anything like that, right?
It's another type of food, by the way, what you put in your mind. You can choose good food or you can choose bad food. You can choose junk food or you can use clean food. You can be constipated in your mind if you put too many bad things. You have to clean it as well.
Yeah.
So absolutely, what you put in your mind is equally important, and I see it as a different type of food.
Yeah. I mean, and I see the same thing right now. I have, older family members that are just retired and sitting home watching the news all day. And when I talk to them, it's just kind of the same cycle over and over. And they think the world is a horrible place. And oh my gosh, this wars, and then this, and then that. And it's just, it's not serving them at all. Right. I mean, they would be so much better off. I'm kind of like, if there's nothing I can do to change the situation, especially in that case, then I'm almost better off just not even hearing about it, right? Not even allowing that into my mind. But I know for me, I do my very best not to watch any kind of really violent or gruesome, dramatic shows or movies or things of that nature. There was one show that many years ago my wife used to watch, and I said, you can't have this on in the house when I'm around. I can't. Like, it was about a hospital emergency room, was like the whole show was about that, and every show was a different drama about that. And it's just, you cannot allow that to constantly be bombarding you. So being very protective of what you allow in your mind, whether it be news, whether it be really violent, gruesome things, versus if you're putting, that's why for me, if I'm going to watch something on TV, it's 90% of the time it's a comedy, right? I just want to laugh if I'm watching something. So that's a really important thing that I think, a lot of this comes from slowing down. And I think too many people are waking up, checking their phone right away, jumping straight into work, not really taking this time for mindfulness. And I think I've spoken about my morning routine in the, about what I kind of do and how I have my quiet time, visualization, gratitude, appreciation. This morning, I was outside for probably over an hour, just in complete silence, just thinking and doing visualizations and reading affirmations and doing gratitude and thinking about purposefully creating in my mind and creating the future that I want. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you're even more kind of have a lot more quiet time even than I do. You're more mindful. You're very specific about when you go online and when you're not, right? So you're really taking a lot of time and space for yourself, right?
That's correct. Yes. Let's see. So there are many things I'm doing, like the things which I can point out on this category is, as you said, I don't watch the news. I have no idea what's happening in the world. I just zero nada. And if it's important, I do still communicate with people. I have businesses, I have people. If it's really that important, someone will tell.
Right.
I don't really need to know about it. I don't hang out with people that put bad thoughts into my mind. That's a very red line. I'm not going to have any virtual call with anyone if I feel it's putting, so to speak, bullshit in my mind. It's like Jim Rohn said, stay the guard at the door of your mind. And I'm really staying a guard at the door of my mind. Let's see what else. I also don't watch any violent films. I completely stopped. I did grow up on those, so I totally get it. As a child, but I don't watch them at all. I'm very mindful to even which kind of movies I'm going as well when it comes to movies. My phone is on airplane mode all the time, so I don't really allow any kind of notifications to distract me at all. I purposefully go and check my phone a few times, sometimes once a day. I'm working on it. My ideal for me is once in 2 days, to check the phone. And I've trained everyone I know that I'm not going to respond right away. It's totally fine. I do have one vehicle how people can reach out to me quicker, to the closest people to me, and I keep it only for them. I don't go and check email and Slack as often as I want. That's the one area which is weaker for me because I run a business and I do go to email and Slack, which distracts me from a distraction perspective. I meditate every day. I regularly go and spend time by myself in nature as well. I go and do usually once a quarter a day where I'm just by myself. No books, no information no eating from my mind, just relaxing. And then I have different food coming in. I have amazing thoughts coming in anytime I do anything like this. So yeah, I'm very much, even the tool I mentioned about love, in some sense, it's a tool to control the thoughts. This is the food I'm eating. I'm eating love food. For me, my world is blissful. My world is amazing. Every day is fantastic. And anyone can choose to live in any kind of world we choose. I choose to have the most amazing, fantastic world every single day. And for me, Earth is a magical place. I don't really know about any wars or anything else because that's my reality.
Right.
And I choose it, and anyone can choose it. And that's my choice. You don't have to choose it. Nobody really forces you. Zero social media. I stopped using social media 2 years ago on a personal level. My business may still use it, but I don't go and scroll. I don't go and watch random things into my brain. I'm conscious about what I read, what I see, and what I want to study. I may not be perfect at times, but doing all the things I mentioned, I'm probably doing more things, really helps me stay the guard over my mind and not put unnecessary things into my mind. That's
amazing. Yeah, that is really great. And I also, this morning too, in my morning quiet time, I literally said, I said, the world, I believe the world is a great place. I believe the world is an abundant, beautiful, safe place. I believe
there's a universal truth. What you believe is, and what your focus is.
Right.
And that's a universal truth. So
whatever you believe is true for you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this, it's interesting. Sometimes, what about in the situation, like I have this situation where this family member, I am committed to speaking with them once a week because they are lonely and older, and I do feel like it's my duty to speak to them once a week. I know maybe there's people, in your family that you have to speak to every once in a while. How do you handle that? So for many people listening now, oh, that sounds great. I wish I could just go into the woods and, be at bliss and meditate, but I have family with me and kids and bills to pay. And what would you say to those people who, or I have a job where the person next to me is, saying this or that, or what advice would you have for those people?
It's funny. My parents just visited me for 10 days just 2 weeks ago. So I had lots of family time. I think if you can resolve your family issues on some level, you can go and resolve things in the world. So your family and how I see it, and I also, first of all, you don't have to do anything, but I choose to also speak to my family. And for me, the perspective which I can offer, it's a gym for love. My family is a place I go and give love. I give love. I give love. And usually our family members, and maybe let me know if it's in your case, are going to be different than you. Yeah. I noticed it on all my friends everywhere. And I think it was all made on purpose. Like, you don't come where everyone are identical or aligned. In my case, it's the same. First of all, I'm not living in the woods. Like, being blissful when you're in the woods, that's easy. I have a family, I run businesses, I have many employees. I have lots of responsibilities. I am active in life. I'm not living in the woods as much as sometimes I would want to. But for coming back to the family, like the perspective, which is very helpful to me, even if I don't like something, it's my inner work. It's never about the other family members. It's about what I feel inside. They may still say something which is not sitting well for me. They may still do something which is not aligned for me. But for me, it's all about how I respond. Yes. If I react, I lost. If I respond, I won. Yeah. And for me, it's a training of being in love, regardless of what's happening, regardless of the dramas, regardless of the stories. It's never about them. And I kind of, by having this perspective, take more power in versus belittling yourself. I can do anything. I have this brother, sister, mother, father. I feel, and everyone that I think that can take this perspective feels more powerful. I'm in control. I choose when to communicate, how to communicate, and I choose how to feel inside. So I just see it as a gym. Like, yeah, you put weights, it's hard, you go more and more and more, and sometimes you fall. So every time for me, family interaction is how I can bring more love, It's like, I think Tony Robbins said it, love your family, choose your peer groups. There's so much wisdom in that. So maybe on a soul level, I chose my family, and here I'm just there to give him love, give him love, give him love. And guess what? When I'm doing that, what do you think happens?
Right. You
start getting some love also. All of a sudden, if someone is supposedly angry and not doing anything, it can melt them down.
Right.
The last thing, so it's going back to you. It's like what you give, it's what you get. Right. So that's a perspective which is very useful for me. And I think on some level, everyone has to deal with family. And for me, it was one of the most helpful perspectives, just a change of perspective, which really changed it.
I love that. And for the last year, maybe even 2 years, really in the last year, the biggest thing I've been working on is being less reactive, which you mentioned a few times, right? It's so easy when someone says something for you to just react and say something back, right? Instead of coming from a place of love. And a lot of the spirituality, personal development that I've been studying recently is about when, a situation arises, this is like the universe giving you a challenge to see if you're going to be reactive or if you can stay calm, keep your cool, respond with happiness or whatever. And then if you fail that challenge, the universe will keep giving you that challenge, right? Once you show you can overcome it, then you've expanded your vessel in a sense. And now you actually can receive maybe a bigger challenge or a greater, some other thing. And when you show that you can pass that challenge, and passing the challenge simply means not being reactive, right? Looking, like you're saying, like looking, coming from a place of love, looking for the good in everything. And so, yeah, it's really much more empowering. And I still have to catch myself many times, as a father with my children, if they're doing something that they know they shouldn't be doing. And, there's a fine line, right? You have to also keep some discipline sometimes with your kids and with things of that nature. You can't just let them run around, do whatever they want. But how can I, in my mind, what I've really been working on is how can I do that in a way where I'm not reactive, where I'm not, if I have to yell to get my kids to act a certain way, that's not serving me, or in the long run them. It's definitely not serving me. Like you said earlier, a lot of the anger and yelling is some of the worst things that you can do to your health, right? And so look at it as you're doing this for yourself and for your own health, and by also doing so, being less reactive, you're also helping these other people as well.
Yeah, I'm saying the same. It's funny. Like for me, it's like, let's say you're level 1, you have tests. When you go to school, at first class, you're gonna get certain tests. You can't get to level 2 if you can't pass all the tests of level 1. So as you said, once you pass a certain test, and that can be literally how you respond, or if you respond, then you may get another challenge. You get level 2, level 3. So you're just like passing the tests. And for me, every time you fail the test, as I said, the universe will throw you just one more option. And then you just like, for me, just I see this tests really and how I respond. Yeah, if I pass the test, and only if you pass the test or not. Yeah.
Right. And I also love about, taking control, being at cause, taking full responsibility for things like you mentioned earlier. It's not just you're taking responsibility, and it's much more empowering when you do that rather than blaming other people, right? It's their fault or this or things of that nature. It's just not helpful, right? So, instead, when you look inside and you say, okay, why is this in my movie? How can I pass this test, right? Just being conscious of that. It all goes back to not being reactive, I think,
I think if everyone would be able to respond versus react, it's like 28. It's going to change many things. Think before you speak or say something. It's definitely one of the biggest things, one detriment which can impact many, many things out there. Yeah.
And it's funny because some people were also, there was another thing I learned recently, which is like, this person, why is this person acting like this? Or why is this, someone was saying something like that. And, or let's say there was a family member addicted to drugs, and the spiritual teacher said, okay, and the person is struggling. How do I get them to stop doing drugs? Do I send them to rehab? Do I do this? What can I do? I've tried everything. And the spiritual teacher would say, find something you're addicted to and release that addiction. Right.
One type of work which I've been doing is actually every time you're judging someone or blaming someone, on some level, you're blaming yourself. You're judging yourself. And that's deep work because you have to accept. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be one-on-one. You may judge someone on topic A, B, but maybe in another area of life, you're doing the same. Because why would you notice it? If you notice it and judge someone, it means it's inside of you. And that's why you're actually having this emotion. And that's deep work. You have to take responsibility if it's inside of you. It's never about them, the family member, the friend, the wife. For me, it's all about myself. It's, as I said, my movie here, my work I have to do. And that's deep work. Like you take responsibility, but you're blaming yourself. You're judging something yourself, and it may be hidden. It may not be really easily seen. But if you go to the core and release it, it will give you much more joy in life.
That's amazing, Yuli. I think that's a great point to end it on. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge again. I love these conversations, and I think it's great to just say, hey, let's record it and share it with everyone when you and I have these conversations. So thank you so much for doing this. I know you're not on social media. I don't think. Do you have anything you wanna plug? Do you have any company or anything that you want to mention, or you're just here out of service?
I'm here out of service. I just hope I was able to be useful to anyone listening.
Thank you so much, Yuli. You're the best, man, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Take care.
Thanks for listening. And just a reminder, if you haven't yet tried any of our Peak Performance products, you get 20% off your first order. We have one of the largest selection of USDA certified organic superfood powders, as well as very high quality supplements. And you get 20% off your first order at buypeakperformance.com. That's www.buypeakperformance.com.